L'chaim, l'chaim, everyone. L'chaim. In the name of the extended Barras family, in the name of the hachlatos Yeshiva, I welcome each and every one of you, those which were able to participate physically with us in the Beis Medrash tonight, as well as those which are watching over the live stream, which today's technology you're able to see and you're able to participate even from a distance. We welcome each and every one of you tonight as we partake in this special Shloshim and siyum mishnayos for a very, very special neshama, a very, very special person, ubashkocha pratis. This event is taking place on Beis Nissen, which is the yahrzeit of the Rebbe Nishmas Eid and the Miyasid of Tomchei Tmimim, and we are here to think over and take lessons from the life of a mashpia and Tomchei Tmimim, Yididenu, Harav Chaim Shneir Zalman ben Harav Shalom Shimon Yaakov. Poischim b'dvar Malchus. We always start off with a vart from the Rebbe that sets the tone for the entire evening. I want to say over a story that I saw and I heard, and a story that I actually was able to meet the person myself, the one that was involved in the story. There was a very, very choshev Yid. He lived in Columbus, Ohio. And I met him in the Columbus, Ohio airport once. And this Yid, his name was Gordon Zaks. Mr. Gordon Zaks came from a very Jewish home. His family actually started, and he ran successfully one of the largest slippers companies that there are. And in 1969, this young Mr. Zaks gave a speech to 3,000 young Jewish professionals, and he spoke to them about the future of Judaism and how if you gave him $100 million, he would invest it in the future of Judaism, and with that he would save Yiddishkeit. With that he would save the future of world Jewry. A little while later, he gets a phone call. On the line is Rabbi Alevsky, who later became the shliach to Cleveland. And Rabbi Alevsky tells him, "Is this Mr. Zaks?" He says, "Yes." He says, "The Lubavitcher Rebbe wants to meet you." And it sounded so important to him. He told me it sounded like royalty. So he agreed to this meeting with the Rebbe. Young Mr. Zaks walks into Yechidus by the Rebbe at midnight. The Rebbe looks at him and the Rebbe tells him the following statement. "Mr. Zaks, I read your speech," because they printed it in a publication. "And by reading your speech, it's very clear that you are taking care of your mind." It was a very good speech and it was well thought out. "From seeing your appearance, it's very clear that you're taking care of your body. But Mr. Zaks," says the Rebbe, "are you taking care of your soul?" And the Rebbe goes into a long hour and a half yechidus with Mr. Zaks about Lubavitch, about the future of Judaism. And in short, the Rebbe speaks to him about the importance of investing in Jewish education. And the Rebbe offers him something that I don't know anyone else that got that offer from the Rebbe. I'm sure there may have been, but I know for sure that he got this offer. And the Rebbe told him, "Can you take my offer? And I will send you one of my Hasidim to live with you for a year. And he will teach you how to live like a Yid for a year." He declined the offer. And actually, the Rebbe wrote him 5 letters, year after year, asking him if he's ready to accept this offer. But in short, he never took upon himself this offer but he did get involved in being miyasid, founding organizations to help Jewish education. In 1988, him and his family were in New York. And this you could actually see a video yourself. His daughter tells him, Dad, his daughter had become a balas tshuva, and his daughter tells him, Dad, can we go to visit the Lubavitcher Rebbe? To get a bracha, to get $1. So they come by the Rebbe, and in his own words, he didn't use his protection. He stood online like everyone else. For an hour and a half, he stood online, and he comes to the Rebbe. And this you can see clearly. The Rebbe says, oh, it's so nice to see you, and I hope the next time I see you won't be as long as the break that we had until now. And in short, the Rebbe looks at him, and the Rebbe says, I hope you're continuing to do what we spoke about, investing and doing all you could to help Jewish education. Now, this is 19 years since his Yechidus. 19 years. So on the video, you see he goes like this, and he says, Rebbe, you're amazing. 19 years go by, and like we're just picking up the conversation like it happened last night. He's just blown away that the Rebbe continues the conversation 19 years as if it just happened yesterday. And the Rebbe smiles, and the Rebbe tells him, what benefit will there be to the community that I'm amazing? In other words, it's very easy to tell somebody and to speak about somebody how amazing they were. But more important than that, we have to ask ourselves, what lessons are we taking? How are we bettering ourselves? And how are we bettering the communities around us? The person that we are coming to give the proper honor and to speak about was a very, very, very chashuv person, an amazing person. He went by a lot of names. I say that over the years, his name evolved. And it actually depends how people call him, you know, where they fit in his life cycle. His family members, from a very young age till today, I would get emails and texts, and their question was, how is Zami doing? Z-A-M-Y. That was the way they referred to him. His classmates, my class, was how's Zalmi doing? The L got added. His friends from Yeshiva Gdoila other years is how's Zalmin doing? And as he got older, obviously the Mushpoyim, how is Reb Zalman doing? How was Rabbi Barras doing? But it was always the same person. Whether it was the Zami from a little boy, or the Rabbi Barras, or Reb Zalman, as a grown adult, the same purity, the same care, the same deep personal connection that he created with each individual that he met was the same. The same warmth and the same Ibergebenkeit that he gave over to the Yachid, to the individual, as a young boy and a young child and a fellow classmate in class, was the same warm care that he gave over to his Talmidim, to his neighbors, and to anyone that he came in contact. And while it's easy to walk away from an event like tonight, and you're going to hear, and people are going to say, wow, he's amazing. And that is true. More important is the Rebbe's response, and what benefit will there be to the community that I'm amazing? What lesson are we going to take from this wonderful life that the Eibishter allowed us to be part of? That the Eibishter shared with us this special gift, a gift that doesn't stop giving. The gift of the neshama of Rav Chaim Shneir Zalman and Rav Shalom Shimon Yaakov. The question is, what lesson are we taking? As the Rebbe always teaches us, V'hachai yitain el liboy. that it's the job and the obligation of the living to take to heart the lessons and to implement them in our daily lives and to implement them in the lives of those around us. That is the greatest respect. That is the greatest show of here that we can show to our dear Reb Zalman, because I can tell you personally, as somebody that has been his classmate since the age of 3, when I'm siyum together for about 10 years, week after week, on and off, and a colleague in Yeshiva for the last 12 years, that one of the ways to actually bring him back is if he hears how much we're talking about him. He'll say, that's it. It's time to come back. He can't handle just being spoken about. And that is not the goal. Of course, it's very, very important. But the greater and most important lesson is v'achai yitein el liboy. What we can take a hachlatos, a good resolution, not just of the past, and more important, for the future. And that's why tonight is not a memorial event. That's not the objective and not the goal of this kinos, of this gathering. The main objective is a lessons learned event. What can we internalize? What can we take into our lives and bring it forward to our family members, to our classmates, to our neighbors, to our community members, and to all those that we may become in contact with? That is the way we start this kinos. That is the goal and objective of the kinos. We know that Mishnah is oisiyos neshama. And that's why the minig Yisrael is that during the Shloshim, after somebody is nifter, we try very hard to finish the entire Shisha Sidrei Mishnah, to finish all the mishnayos, which will bring an aliyas haneshama for the Mishnah oisiyos neshama. I'm going to ask one of the Talmidim to make a siyum of his Masechta, which is really a siyum for everyone's Masechta of the Shisha Sidrei Mishnah. A Talmud which is not just a Talmud that says, V'shinantam levanecha, these are the Talmidim, your children are your Talmidim, they're your family. This Talmud actually is family, not just by the Torah that he learned, but because they actually are family. I'd like to call up one of the Mitsuyonim of the Yeshiva, a nephew of Rabbi Barras A, Atomim Hanayla Tzvi Levitin, whose parents are in Shlichus in Kingston, Pennsylvania, being oisik in Chinuch, Altaris HaKodesh, a nephew of Rabbi Barras, a Talmud in Shir Beis, who's going to be Messiah, the entire Masechta Hordius of mishnayos. And with this, it's also the siyum of all the Talmidim that took upon themselves the Masechtas of Shisha Sidrei Mishnah. And without further ado, I'd like to call up Hatomim Tzvi Halevi Levin.
Cain, Levi, Cain goes before Levi for all, Kaveh, Levi, Yisrael, Levi goes before Yisrael, Mamzer, Yisrael goes before Mamzer, Mamzer goes before Gaveni, Nasan, Ger, Gaveni goes before Ger, Lavin Shukran, and Ger goes before a free servant. Imagine when does this apply? When they're all equal in Torah. Avon, Haya, Mamzer, Chacham, King Gadol, Amma Aretz, but the Mamzer is a big Chacham, and King Gadol is Amma Aretz, Mamzer, Chacham, King Gadol, Amma Aretz. Era is Halim Konsi.
Yasher Koyach, Atomim Tzvi Halevi Levitin. I'm sure that this siyum is not just a nechama, an aliyas haneshama for Rav Chaim Shneur Zalman, but as well as for the entire mishpacha. Usually after a siyum, a kaddish is said. The kaddish will be said later by Rav Shalom Barras when he makes his own siyum connected to the Shloshim of today. Rabbi Mashoyalim. There are a lot of people that ask and they wonder, tell me more about this seemingly mystical person who would walk the streets and you would see that this is a person that leapt in a hecher ha'olam, a yid that lives in a higher, pure world. And he walked and he lived with us in this physical world. Tell me more about this person. And I once was asked to answer this question. And I said, I will tell you two stories which bring out what type of person we are talking about, especially in this evening. In Chassidus, it speaks about Elikus, which is Maila Adin Kates, which is so high, it's infinitely higher than this world. At the same time, it's Lamata Mata Adin Tachlis. Elikus permeates Olam Hazev. I want to share with you two stories. One that brings out the Lamaila Adin Kates. But more important than that is the Lamata Mata Adin Tachlis. I will never forget, a couple of years ago, probably more than a couple by now, we had a Melava Malka one Motzei Shabbos at the home of Rabbi Schollenberg Kalmanson, who's with us this evening, the Executive Vice President of Chabad of Southern Ohio and Shliach of the Southern Ohio region. We had a Melava Malka for the Kehila, and it was a gloomy, rainy evening. And I got home, it must have been a couple hours into Motzei Shabbos on a winter Shabbos, and my phone rings, and Reb Zalman is on the phone. What does he want from me on a Motzei Shabbos? What's Viller? What does he want? He says, Gershon, you know I don't have a computer in my house. I said, yeah, I'm well aware. Maybe you can check for me. What is the weather in Indiana? What? Yeah, do me a favor. Check what's the weather in Indianapolis now. So I get on the computer, go to weather.com. I said, it's raining in Indiana. Okay. What's the weather in Columbus? Okay. In Columbus, it's raining. What's the weather deep in Kentucky? Louisville, let's say. Check. Probably also very gloomy. I say, that's it. Are you going north, south, east, and west? What are you doing tonight? What's Tutsev though? He says, Gershon, it's very simple. This month I didn't yet say Kiddush Levana. And I can't go a month without Kiddush Levana. So if I have to travel to Indianapolis, if it's not raining there, or it's not raining in Columbus, or it's not raining in Frankfort, Kentucky, so that's where I'll go to do Kiddush Levana. Here? Lamaila Adin Kates. This is a story which brings out somebody that's living a likus on such a high level that for him it was obvious that if you can't do Kiddush Levana in Cincinnati, you're obviously going to drive to Columbus to do Kiddush Levana. But more impressive, and a bigger lesson learned is the Lamata Mata Adin Tachlis, the detailed care to each and every individual bocher. Every single year, the Yeshiva puts a lot of time, effort, money, preparation into our Father and Son Shabbos. I call it my annual dinner. Moistus make a big dinner. They put a lot of time and effort to bring their balabatim. Our partners are our parents, the chinuch of the Talmidim. We put a lot of time to invite the parents to come for a Shabbos, and everything is on display. Everything's on display. And I obviously, like any individual, appreciate positive feedback. We can handle sometimes criticism as well. We appreciate positive feedback. And I was very happy when I got an email from one of the parents from Montreal about positive feedback. He says he's not so impressed with the meals, with the fabrengens, with the shiurim. That's all good, but that's not vasatem der numen, as they say in Yiddish. That's not what chaptiv. That's not what made an impression on his life. He says, what did I walk away impressed with? It was right before the Friday night meal. I noticed in a quiet corner the tall mashpia, Rabbi Barras, and he came to the meal with a bag. Wondering, what is he coming to the meal with the bag? He doesn't trust the kashrus of the yeshiva. Was von Stur. What's he coming with the bag? And I was surprised to see that in the bag, there's more bags. What's he doing with a bag full of bags? And then I saw that he called over all the Talmidim whose parents were not able to come. And he said, I know that your father is not here. You may feel left out. So allow me to be your father for the weekend. Here's a treat from home. He says, that is real care. Nobody is looking. It's not fanfare. That's a mashpia, being sensitive. There could be a young bacher that could feel that maybe, left out. Everyone else's parents are here, and his father couldn't come for whatever reason. He's coming to a meal of all the fathers and sons. The child can feel, just can feel bad. Not that he's blaming his parents. And then true mashpia goes lemata mata adin tachlis. Is sensitive to the nitty gritty, hard, detailed need of the child. And he gave them the bag. So I was impressed to hear that. But this year, I had an even more impressive story. If you want to bring out the chinuch of Reb Zalman. A couple of weeks ago, the Shabbos right before the father and son Shabbos, I had his son, Yosef Yitzchak, who's now by the Chidon. Baruch Hashem was excelled in the Chidon mitzvahs and is in New York with his plaque, getting the award by the Chidon mitzvahs. Wonderful weekend with Sivas Hashem kinder from all over the world. And he tells me, he says, Rabbi Achsen, next week is the father and son Shabbos. I said, yeah. He says, can you take me to the store? I said, yeah, but what's the connection between your first and second question? I can take you to the store. Next week's the father and son Shabbos. He says, well, my tati is not here right now in Cincinnati. Who's going to give pekalach to the kids whose fathers are not here? Who's going to give pekalach? The boy whose father is not here is giving pekalach to the boys whose father is not here. This is the true emeseh chinuch, that it permeates in every shape, matter, and form. And I want to say that over the last 2 years, I saw firsthand a glimpse of where it comes from. Obviously, gifts from the Eibishter. But this sensitivity, care, and positive spirit comes from his father, Zalzan Gesund und Stark, who I thought I knew Rabbi Shalom Barras for many years. He was my principal for many years. We've come very, very close. I mean, I don't want to say how close I've got to the palm of his hand over the years. Really, really close over the years in Ocean Parkway, Lubavitcher Yeshiva, as a classmate of his son, and Bechlal being in Yeshiva, but it didn't stop in Yeshiva because our class would always go to Gan Yisrael in Parksville. So in addition to having Rabbi Barras as a principal, Rabbi Barras was also our learning director. So there was Emesek Shamayim Shamota. Wherever we go, there was Rabbi Barras. He was always part of our lives, of our chinuch. mamish midei yoyim b'yoymoy. But in the last 2 years, we saw him and his Rebbetzin Zuzayin gesund, the Ibergebenkeit, and besides the Ibergebenkeit, that complete positive spirit. Every time you ask Reb Shalom, how's it going? Same response. Everyone knows it by now. As the Eibishter is good. The Eibishter is good. Always. And people always tell me, they go to visit in the hospital, they're coming back inspired from the Fabrengen. Rabbi Barras A, sich übergeben, and with everything going on, also found so much time to speak to individual Bochrim. I mamish felt we had a mashpia on staff right here, just every single day. And personally, the time that really taught me more than any sefer that can teach me was last Purim. Last Purim, we got very confusing news from the doctors. People were saying crazy things. And it was about 11:30 at night in Yeshiva, and they were having dancing. And the Reb Sholem came into the Beis Medrash. I said, what's going to happen now? The whole dancing? How do you have dancing? And he looked at me, he says, Gershon, it's the Purim. What do you mean? It's Purim, it got taxed? Like, there's only Purim, there's only Simcha, there's only Getlichkeit. This is real chinuch. And this is the chinuch that Reb Zalman received, and the chinuch that Reb Zalman gave to each and every Talmud, obviously to his own children, and each Talmud as he treated like a child. This positive emunah, an unshakable faith in the Eibishter, an unshakable faith in them, which is more of a chidush. To believe in the Eibishter, but to believe in a 15-year-old bacher, to believe in a 10-year-old child, that takes a lot of emunah. But Reb Zalman believed in each Talmud, not where he is, but where he's going to be. How many times would he tell us in Hala meetings? He's not a 15-year-old Talmud. He's a father and grandfather of children. Every bacher, Royas HaNoilad, where this boy is going to be. They don't remain 14 forever. They become 24, they become parents, and they become grandparents. They become leaders, rabbanim, and community leaders in their kehilos. This is the chinuch that he gave to each and every one of us, his fellow chavri and hala. And this is what he gave to each and every Talmud. I would like to call up the father of Rav Chaim Shneir Zalman, Rav Sholem Shimon Yaakov Barras, to address the olam which is here and the many, many people which are watching in the live stream online. Please, Rav Sholem Shimon Yaakov.
When you have Talmidim, you have to be very careful with them because you don't know what's going to happen years later. It's interesting that when you look at the dates of everything that went on, and each time there was a date that things were progressing, and then finally, when we came to the day of Lamed Adar Aleph, which is the Shchedesh of Adar Beis, first day. That's when Hashem took the neshama of Chaim Shneir Zalman. And I was thinking to myself, why would he pick that day? The Eibishter had so many times that it could have been taken before and it'd still be an Adar. because of his special simcha sachayim, we find that Lamed has both months. It has the month of Adar Aleph and it has the month of Adar Beis. So he has 60 days. So to bring out the greatness of what it means to have simcha, the Yeshiva took that day to be his yahrzeit. I just wanted to know that it's not an inyan of, we're talking about something that the Yeshiva did something that we should complain about, but it just gives us a little inkling of how the Yeshiva looks at each neshama, and each neshama has their job, and the Yeshiva decided to teach us that the way to live is taka to be besimcha no matter what the conditions are. Now we're talking about mishnayos. We took a lot of mishnayos, everyone took a masechta, and yesterday was the actual time when we finished everything. And the siyum of all masechtas, which means what did you accomplish from learning me'emosai kaiden shema ba'arvis all the way to the last mishnah of Uktzin. There has to be some kind of a connection because this is the culmination of everything you learned. So we find as follows. The last mishnah in Uktzin, now Uktzin is talking about what things are connected to the object, a handle, something that protects. So if it's a fruit, the stem is the handle, the peel is its protection. Because they do something for the fruit, therefore they are part of the fruit. When something touches them, they become tamei, even if they're not part of the fruit and edible, but still they become tamei as well. So the Mishnah starts off with a beehive. Kaveres Tvairim, Rabbi Barras A. Therefore, since you have a beehive that is connected to the ground, so number one, it can't become tamei because it's mechubar lakarka. The customer pruzbol, since it is like property, so you can write a pruzbol, and it will not be able to become tamei. So someone who will be able to take out from there, then he's chai, because this is a reshus hayachid, and you have an inyan of reshus harab. They argue, it's not like property, it's not like ground, and case not pruzbul, therefore you don't have to make a pruzbul because it's not something that is part of the ground. And therefore it is something that will be able to get tumah in its place. So we know now that we're talking about an idea of honey. Right, bees. So the next Mishnah finishes off as follows. Chalais dvash, when you have then the honeycomb of me'emosai metamais mishumashka. Now, as honey is in the honeycomb, it's food. Once it becomes liquid, when you pour it out, it becomes liquid. We know that there's 7 types of liquid. When they will come in contact with the food, it prepares the food to become tamei. So we want to know, from when does the honey have the din of being liquid? So and now there's an argument of what the words are, when he thinks that he's going to do it, or when he smokes out the bees in order to get the bees out of the way so he can go and get the honey. When he starts to actually scrape off the honey off the honeycomb. This is the argument. After that, the Mishnah ends off with something that would seem not connected at all. Rabbi Shulchan Levi says in Elam Haba, in other words, the time to come when Mashiach comes, Hashem will inherit every tzaddik, 310 worlds. As it says, Lahanchil, Hashem makes inherit by his beloved, Yesh. Yud Shin stands for 310. So it's they say, and all their storage, Amalei he will fill up. Rabbi Shimon Chalafta wants to add to that. He says that's very good. We're going to have a lot of brachas, but you need a container to be able to accept these brachas. Hashem did not find a keli, a vessel, to be able to hold all these brachas only with the idea of shalom. Shenamar, as it says, Hashem Hashem has given his nation strength, which is Torah, and therefore Hashem has blessed his nation because of Torah. He blessed it with peace. Now, of course, when we learn the Mishnah, number one, why would you be talking about the idea of honey as the last thing? Number two, what is Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi coming to explain that Hashem is going to reward the tzaddikim? So the Rambam and Pirush Mishnayos wants to say that the Mishnah is only telling us, since a person who started off learning all of Torah, started from Memosai and the Shema Be'avis, and he finished all the way till Uktzin, so now he's a person who did his avodah. He has Torah behind him, meaning now he practiced everything he did. So therefore, Hashem is telling him, now, because you did so much, this is the promise that I'm going to give you. This is what I'm giving you as a present. You're going to have 310 great levels of the world coming to you. Which the question is, if we're talking about a tzaddik, it says, called tzaddik, a tzaddik. And we know that one doesn't do it because he wants to get rewarded. So why did Yeshua ben Levi coming and saying, you're a tzaddik, you did everything correct, so you're going to be rewarded? Is that why he did it? And a tzaddik is doing it, he does it because Hashem needs, so to say, a dir b'tachtonim, and I'm the one who's going to accomplish it. I'm doing it because of Hashem. That's what an eved is. He's doing it because of Hashem. So what is this Mishnah coming to tell us? And what do we learn from the machlekes Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel in concerning of how one gets honey? And also, why is it so important to end off with the idea that you need a keli to have all these brachas in? The Rebbe explains something very interesting. In the argument between Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai, the Rebbe Chavar is the one who says that all those Tanayim and Amarayim always have a certain way of learning, and it continues in everything that they do. So in the case of Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel, the argument is always between Kayach and Payach. Something you have potential. To Beis Shammai, potential means it happened already. According to Beis Hillel, you need the actual action. And every example that you have of the machlekes, you have on Hanukkah, you have which way do we go, the days that are coming or the days that are going out. Same thing. Does the day of Hanukkah have potential of 8 days? You light 8 candles. The next day is only 7 days, you only light 7. Beis Hillel said, no, you need actuality. Actuality, it's the first day, you light the first day. You have 8 days, you light 8. And throughout the whole thing, and the Rebbe goes to each one, why each one is necessary, even though you know that each one has his staying reason, Kayach and Parah. Each one gives a chiddush to the other one. But over here, we have as follows. The idea of bees work not for themselves. There is no satisfaction of going collecting the honey and bringing it into the beehive. They're only doing it for the owner. So therefore, the Mishnah is bringing us this din to tell us you have accomplished everything. What is the end result of why are you doing all these things? Because you're like a bee. You're doing it because you want to bring nachas to the owner, that's the Eibishter himself. So all your mitzvahs wasn't because you want to become a better person. It's because you want to do what Hashem wants. That's why this argument is here. And Beis Hillel says, in order to be able to accomplish this inyan, you have to be a neshama in a guf. There's another argument beforehand. What is the purpose of what's best for the neshama? Right? There's a machlekes that for 2.5 years they were arguing against each other, and the question was, do we say that Noach, it's best, it's good, Shaloi Nivra, that one should not be created, better than Yesem Mishnivra, or the other way around, Noach Shenivra, better than not being born. So Shammai says better for the neshama not to be created. And Beis Hillel says, no, it's good for the neshama. Now, what's the difference? Potential. Shammai says, what is he going to accomplish? Coming down here, he doesn't gain anything more. Because in potential, he has everything already. The only thing is here, he'll have the put. If he has potential, then it's best for him not to have to go through all the tzad and let him have in his potential, let him stay in his potential, which he has called too. Beis Hillel said, no, it's not enough. You need that potential to come into actuality. Therefore, you have to have, it's better for the neshama, even though he has tzad and everything else, but the end result will be that he will gain as well. Both agree that they're both doing it because of Hashem. The question is, do you see it in what's best for the neshama, or when Hashem forces him, then he also agrees he has to do it. So that means when Mashiach comes, we're going to see the potential. Because since we're going to see everything, we'll see all the greatness. So when a person has a machshava that he wants to do good, according to Beis Shammai, then he accomplished everything. So when a person then will think that he wants that Mashiach should come, then he has it already. And that's the way we should be thinking. That's why this is brought here as well. Now, Rabbi Shimon ben Levi wants to explain then that we're not talking about a reward. We're talking about what will happen to you that you accomplished everything. The fact that you went and did all the mitzvahs and you learned Torah, you accomplished everything. So he says, He'll make you inherit this type. Because if it would be a reward, it would say the Eibishter will litain, he'll give it to us. And it doesn't say that. In Sanhedrin, it uses that expression called there, it's talking about reward. But here he's not talking about reward. Here he's talking about what do you gain when you do everything. So he says, Hashem makes you inherit 310 levels, that this time is 310 times much more than even one time in Adam Hazan. And the Rambam says, and it's not an exact number. This is just a number, but really it means Ein Sof. It doesn't end at all. In other words, we're going to gain what the Baira has, which means that when you inherit, you become in place of the one you're inheriting. It's not that you are getting something from the person who you're inheriting. You take his place. So when Hashem says, I'm making you inherit these levels, it means you become it. Now, what's the expression he used? Doesn't use a number, he used the word yesh. Yesh means to exist. The Eibishter says, being that you did the Avodah through Abba, you did it because you want to give nachas to me. Therefore, I'm going to give you the inheritance of yesh, the real existence. The Rambam says that the only yesh amiti is the only Eibishter. Anything that comes only comes from Hashem. So nothing else exists. So who's the real I is Hashem. Hashem said, what's going to be the state you'll be in? You will be in my place where you'll be able to feel not the revelation of what a nivra can take, what a creation can take, but rather you'll be on my level where you'll be able to feel what I feel. Your timing will be my timing. The timing that I have of what you can do mitzvahs, that's the timing you'll feel. That's what he says. It's the hankel, something that's not possible, something that we can't work for. But Hashem gives us the ability to be able to inherit, and it becomes the yesh, or amiti, that we feel, the I that we feel is Hashem's I. And therefore, by Hashem, once you're on that level, so of course, Bagashim, that will also be affected. So Rabbi Shimon hachlatos said, in 1 second, with so much, how can you contain it? How does a nivra have the ability to contain that kind of a kedusha? So he says, Hashem gave us something that makes peace to the world. Because the world is made up of ruchnius and then it has gashmius, but they don't mix. The only time they can mix if you have something that's higher than both, which is the idea of ois, the strength that a yid has, which is Torah. Torah combines ruchnius and gashmius, puts them together. By us being told, take this parchment and make tefillin out of it. Take this garment and make tzitzis out of it. What you're doing is you're taking a ruchnius ingredient, mixing it with a physical ingredient, putting it together, all of a sudden you have a mitzvah, something that's holy, an object that is normal, just physical, becomes spiritual as well. That's through Torah. And Shalom means to make peace between the higher levels and the lower levels and make them as one. And that's why when we say Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, the Arvis, that's how the Mishnah starts of the brachas. When do we start to say the Shema, which means it's not at night, you don't see Kedusha, but you say Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, you bring the unity of Hashem even in the night, you lighten the dark as well, and you show how the Echad is there, it goes into the 8 levels, 7 Rikia and 1 earth, and the 4 sides, the Dalit, and you have then at the end, the Hanchel. Then you'll be able to come to the level of having the eye of Hashem as well. And the only way to do that is through Torah. Torah gives us that peace, that harmony. And therefore, when we are learning this, we learn then the greatness of Torah. Many times we are sitting in Shir and we're learning a piece of Gemara and it's a nice Gemara, it doesn't really mean anything, it's very boring because it doesn't mean anything to me. So this Mishnah says, what do you mean it doesn't mean anything to you? When you learn an idea, you're taking then a Ruchnisdak idea, putting it into a physical concept, then you just make shalom between Pamal Yishamaya and the Pamal Yishamata. You just made a harmony between the two opposites, which makes then a building for Hashem. You're making a mishkan. So how can you say it's boring? Just like breathing in and out is pretty boring. But everyone agrees that if we stop breathing Rahman al-Fan, that's the end of our life. Same thing with Torah. If we stop learning Torah, this does not give us the chayas that we need. So everyone would know that my son's whole koch was to make sure that the Bachrim have a geschmack in learning and they should understand it. So your job now is to do exactly what he wants. And when you're sitting down and you're going to learn a Gemara or a Maimon of Siddur, and you're going to say, okay, forget it, let's turn the page. Go and bother all of your mashpiyim and all your Rosh Yeshivas and say, I'm not leaving until I understand it. Because if I don't understand it, I don't have shalom, I don't have peace. And the world needs the peace now that we need. Just do this. I don't know for the Daharas, I don't know that the Lord כשם שדלתם שמתם את הארץ, כך זה מעצמם סדרים, מספר מאחרים מסיימו, ולא מדובר בלי ועשו כאן מצוות ביעד, אבל כל הצנים בתלמיד החכם מסכם לפני את הארץ, גם בדיזלי של יסומש, אתם בדיזלי עד אילון. יוקם ביבץ הלכה, תנך העצר, בשביל בנתן שמע הלכה, יצא שישוחח, כי יביאו מלך ויצאו לך שניס חיים. אלכים במנה בצמאים של חכמת, אני תמיתן, אני תמיתן השלם. I just want to make one statement that when we say the Hadron, we are talking about many times we think that the worldly people are more educated and they have a way of life. Here we learn, if you have Torah, you are more educated because you know more about the life than anyone else. Hela in change from Rabbi can look at the back, but kind of come down to the river. Come on, come with Maya, we go on. Hey, from Rabbi Shamaya, can take my points off in Rome. Hey, Shalom in Rainbow, we also Shalom and Israel in Rome.
Agroisin Yasher Koyach, Rav Sholem Shimon Yaakov, Nasach Yiddish Chassidische Nachas, von alle Kinder in Einechlach, Soif Kol Adoides, L'chaim, L'chaim. There are certain conversations that you will never forget. It was exactly 2 years ago, not to the date, but to the event. Sunday night of the Chidon Mitzvahs, 2 years ago. I was in New York. I had flown early in the morning, about 4 o'clock. I left Cincinnati to fly from Dayton, flew to New York to be by the Chidon Mitzvahs. Was by the Chidon, came home. I had to do then an interview. I was flying to Eretz Yisrael to speak by a Yud Aleph Nisan event. They had an interview. I came home to my in-laws' house and I was exhausted. We were flying back the next morning, me and my 2 sons. I'm sitting on the couch, a quiet Sunday evening, and the phone rings. Look at the phone, and the phone comes up, Rabbi Barras. Even though he's my friend, my phone is Rabbi Barras. No question. And he comes, I pick up the phone, I'm tired, and he starts up the conversation with the strangest question. He says, Gershon, do you want me to continue teaching in Yeshiva next year? It was like the last thing. I thought maybe he wants me to buy you something from New York. I'm coming tomorrow. Like, if you're going to have this conversation, maybe we should have it tomorrow in my office. And my brain is like jumping 3 steps ahead. What type of conversation? Where is this going? Of course I want you to teach in Yeshiva next year. Like, are you asking for a raise? Like, I don't know what is it that you want? You're calling me in New York. We can't have this conversation tomorrow. But I'm not going to say anything. So I say, Zalman, of course I want you to teach in Yeshiva next year. What's the question? He says, are you ready to tell that to the Rebbe? I'm like, of course. I'm still like totally lost. Of course I'll tell the Rebbe that I want you to teach in Yeshiva next year. So he tells me, Gershon, you know that I was by the doctor because Shabbos, he wasn't feeling well the weeks before. He was having a hard time sitting with his back, standing, sitting, uncomfortable. So I had known that he was planning on going to the doctor. I said, yeah, of course, I know you went to the doctor. It's still, nothing was registering in my mind. This conversation was getting more and more awkward by the conversation. And he stops and he says, and you want to know what happened? I said, yeah. He says 3 words. Sholosh klipois hatmeyos. That meant. It was silent on the phone, and I'm supposed to understand this Chassidische Aussprach. Sholosh klipois hatmeyos. It's quiet, and I'm sitting on the couch, and he's obviously in Cincinnati. It felt very long, it was probably 30 seconds till I understood what that meant without fully grasping it. And he says, Gershon, you're in New York now. Please go to the oil and tell the Rebbe that you want me to teach in Yeshiva, ich darf sein gesund. So obviously I went and we davened. And that started this journey that will finish with the complete Hisgalus of the Rebbe. And throughout this journey, so many people, I don't even know because I just only know the yeshiva and friends part. I've come so close to my classmates. Everyone has participated in every shape, way, or form. Everyone wants to know what's going on. Community members, neighbors, friends. Everyone has shown tremendous Avos Yisrael over the last 2 years. And just take an idea of the campaign that was done. I happened to be on the VAD of the campaign, over 6,000 donors, individuals that came together, people from all ways and stripes of observance and Yiddishkeit, to show their deepest respect and Koras HaToiv. But throughout this all, I would say there was one person that showed tremendous Avos Yisrael, that beyond any shape or way of imagination. When you think of Avos Yisrael, you think of Aaron HaKoyen, having the Talmidim Shel Aaron, Oyev Sholem, Beroidev Sholem, Oyev Esabriyas, Mekarpon LaToyru. I want to introduce a Choshev Shliach, who's busy full-time, is on Shlichus in one of the most populated Jewish communities in New York, Borough Park. I think there are a lot of Jews in Borough Park. There's a lot of work to do per square block. A lot of Yidden in Borough Park, spreading Yiddishkeit, spreading the Varkeit of Chassidus, spreading the Rebbe's Pesudas HaGeula. It's a full avoida. Yet Harav Aaron Ginsberg, the Aaron, when we see the Avos Yisrael, Aaron Shebedeireinu, how many countless times, effort, phone calls, midnight, 2 a.m., anytime. Noch a doctor, noch a mitzvah. It wasn't just physical. How many times did he call me, Gershon, are you recording another shiur and another shiur and another shiur? Not letting anyone off the hook to turn over every stone, every inyan that had to get done. And the kier didn't stop. Lamed Oder Aleph, Tavshin Tes. Baraya, 30 days later, just coming back from a Simcha in Eretz Yisrael, right before Pesach, took the time to come out to Cincinnati to speak and Fabreng with the Olam tonight. It's my tremendous privilege to introduce to the Olam here and the Olam that's watching online, Harav Aaron Ginsberg, the Rebbe Shliach to Borough Park.
Maybe a bit shocking, but I actually prepared what I'm going to say now some 2 months ago. Nor I, nor anyone sitting here, nor anyone the world over imagined saying these words at an event of a Shloshim. But when I'm thinking about what to say in Shloshim, I started replaying in my mind the words I imagined I would be sharing at a Suda Seidah, at an evening expressing gratitude, celebrating miracles. And I went chapter by chapter of all the experiences that we should be giving gratitude and recognition and recognizing the miracles. And I said, wait a moment. What changed? If something was worthy of being recognized and celebrated, what changed? Perhaps the setting is not what we envisioned, not what we imagined, but does that rewrite the story? What happened to all those chapters throughout this ordeal? They all deserve the proper recognition. Just as we imagined to do it at a Suda Seidah, we ought to do it here and now. This might take more than a night. Very briefly, let's go through a few chapters, at least, of what I've had the great zchus to be witnessing throughout this ordeal. It all began on a Friday night. I was sitting at a Shabbos table and farbrenging with my family about recognizing the Rebbe's words, believing in the Rebbe's words. And after the Suda, our son Levi Yitzchak enlightened me, advised me of what's going on. I said, Tati, we have to do whatever we can. I said, how can I help? He says, figure out, touch base with the family, see if you can assist, because there's an emunah. There's an emunah that goes beyond the norms, beyond anyone's wildest imaginations. An emunah that was so potent by every one of his talmidim, every one of his mushpayim. And there began chapter after chapter where I witnessed nothing but miracles. B'Shchaydish Shabbos, I'm sitting and reflecting about this experience, and I'm reading in Hallel the upcoming new kapitel of the Rebbe, and the words were just bouncing straight at me. Min ha-meitzar karasi ka, sometimes the Eibishter puts us through a meitzar, puts Yidden through a test, something that's very constraining, something very pressuring, something very painful. The purpose of it is karasi ka, it awakens within us a deeper connection and a deeper bond and a emunah b'tachin. That sometimes it takes the meitzar to reach that karasika. But immediately, what I encountered with the family who I was dealing with and talking about the situation was Hashem li lo yira. We're not afraid. There was no fear. There was only, what can be done? What is demanded of us? What is expected of us to react here and now? The emunah b'tachin that enveloped everybody, and first and foremost the family. Reb Zalman's dear parents, Chashuv parents, his in-laws, were infused with toiv lachaseis b'Hashem v'toyach ba'adam. Only emunah b'tachin the every word uttered was infused, permeated with a steadfast emunah. It's going to be good. And that emunah is real, that emunah is enduring, and that emunah must be celebrated tonight. It's a miracle to live a life infused with such potent emunah. This is the Rebbe's vision of what the Rebbe wants of Chassidim. His family lived and breathed that emunah in the ultimate sense of the word. Yimin Hashem u'isachayil. The Rebbe's soldiers. Reb Zalman was a mashpia. It's not just to use words par excellence, because it's from a different planet. When the Rebbeim envisioned Temchet Mimim, when the Rebbe envisioned what a mashpia would be in Deir Hashvi, Reb Zalman is the epitome of that type of a mashpia. It's not about what Reb Zalman taught in his shiurim. Brilliant shiurim, bringing down the deepest concepts of Chassidus in a way that the Talmidim ate it and swallowed it and digested it. It wasn't only about the Farbrengens, but it was a dmus. Reb Zalman really needed just to walk into class. He practically did his lesson for the day. The rest is all bonuses. The rest is all the extras. Looking at a mashpia that is kol kulei emes through and through. His life wasn't something that he taught. The Chassidus wasn't something he taught, he lived it. And as the Rebbe envisions and the Rebbe wants a mashpia to be, is one that kol kulei is a lesson. Look at his life. The Talmidim had the great privilege not only to sit in his shiurim, not only to be in his midst, but also see his life, his lifestyle, his davening, his interactions with his family. The little bit I heard, the bits and pieces I've heard of what they encountered coming to a Shabbos at his table, the love that he imbued his family with, how he went down on the floor and playing and teaching them, and every experience with his children was a lesson, was imbuing with them the values of Yiddishkeit, the values of Chassidus, with a boundless love. These lessons imbued every one of his Talmidim for life. It didn't only teach them a maimer or a sicha, but it taught his Talmidim how to live like a chassid, how to daven like a chassid, how to relate like a chassid, how to be a father, a husband like a chassid. His Talmidim were sharing the respect he had for his Rebbetzin. Unimaginable, a real celebration, a real cause for recognizing this is a miracle in our times to see a chassid living exactly the way the Rebbe wants a chassid to live. Throughout various highs and lows of the entire medical arena, at one time was a very critical point. A real critical decision had to be made. And we're on a conference call. And his Rebbetzin is on the line. And she asked some very simple questions. The summary of it was, what's the Rebbe's directive now? That's all that mattered. All emotions were put aside. All feelings and ideas were all very not relevant. What counted was, what's the Rebbe's hira in this situation? Katzas shnei reifim yedidim. That's what counted. It was over. The Rebbe teaches us, the Rebbe says, it's not only that she does the will of her husband, but she inspires the will of her husband. Oisa, she creates. Rabbi Zalman was able to be that devoted mashpia because he knew that he had an Ezer Kenegdai who's there at his side, inspiring him and telling him, yes, give of your time to the Talmidim. They need you, even if it meant compromising on things that might have been more comfortable for any woman. But what came first in her life was the Rebbe. What comes first is, where is my husband most needed now? And he knew that. That allowed him to give his entire being into every experience when he was needed, any time of the day or night. And I'm speaking to you in Galite. They're graduated yeshiva. They're living, building their own homes. And they're sharing with me how Reb Zalman held their hand throughout their entire experience as a bachar, beyond graduating yeshiva, as they were entering shidduchim, when they're actually getting married, inspiring them to the real ideals of shalom bayis, to the real ideals of how to be mechavech children. It wasn't just within the walls of yeshiva doing his duties, but when he adopted a Talmud, it was literally his own child, giving his entire being to each and every one of them, in whatever situation they were in. Rabbi Barras mentioned earlier his children, the dream of every parent, to have children follow their ways, to have children emulate the values that they lived for. The story that Rabbi Barras shared before of how his son wanted to prepare for the Shabbos of Subanim. It's a miracle. It's a miracle we need to celebrate in today's world, that children are growing up with those strong values that they absorbed from their father. It's something that we know. They will live every day of their lives, they will grow and continue exactly the lifestyle their father imbued them with and wanted of them. It's another chapter of a miracle that we need to recognize and celebrate. Tonight, Rabbi Barras mentioned earlier, is Beis Nissen. We're actually entering 100 years of Tafresh Pei. 100 years of the Estalkus of the Rebbe Nishma Satan, and entering 100 years of the beginning of the siyum of the Frierdiker Rebbe. The Rebbe summarized it all. What's the life of the Rebbe Nishma Satan was 10 Chitz Minim, continued by the Frierdiker Rebbe. Rabbeim had a vision of Timchet Mimim. The Rebbe says, Meya is bottle min ha'olam, it's beyond halamas v'estadim, it's the real emerges. It's a miracle. Timchet Mimim of Cincinnati is a miracle story. The vision of the Rabbeim of Timchet Mimim is coming to fruition. The brotherly love, the Hanhala, Rabbi Beresha, shows to a member of the Hanhala throughout the entire ordeal a miracle. The dream of what the Rebbe wants, of how a Hanhala should live, the Ava v'Achva, with real brotherly love, care, and concern, surpassing anyone's wildest imaginations, being there for Reb Zalman throughout, being for the family, a real shoulder to lean on, a real pillar of support. This is a chapter that deserves recognition and celebration. This is the miracle of Timchet Mimim here and now. In many chapters, Reb Zalman's siblings were there, b'chol eis mitzay, thinking, exploring, investing, introducing this concept, that idea, doing whatever they can, giving of their time, their lives, their families, everything for Reb Zalman's well-being. All chapters of miracles. And perhaps last but not least, the Tmimim. The Emunah B'tachim. That each and every one of you had from the beginning to the very last day is a miracle of miracles. Because it's not only that you are all imbued and infused with a dynamite emunah in the Rebbe's words. And everyone was wondering, we've heard people who've passed on, but the devastation, the heartbroken Tmimim, this is really out of the ordinary. What's behind it? Standing there at the Levaya and Talmidim crying, more than children would cry for their parents. What's behind that? And it's very simple. It's not only that every Talmud felt like a child, but truly like a child. They didn't lose a mashpia. They lost a father and a mother all together at the same time. But it was more than that. Because till the last second, not one Talmud, not one Tamim thought this will ever happen, because they were infused with an emunah. The shock, the devastation was a trauma. This was something that broke every heart. And that's a miracle that we need to recognize tonight. It's a miracle because this is what the Rebbe wants of Tmimim. Don't look back and question that emunah b'tachin. It was real. It is real. And it inspired Adas HaChasidim the world over. Every one of your families, your parents, myself included. And the ripple effect on Adas HaChasidim the world over has imbued every single chassid with a renewed emunah b'tachin. Look at these Tmimim. They've never seen the Rebbe, but look at their emunah. Look how they know how every word of the Rebbe is true. And they live it in their ultimate sense of the word. You inspired Adas HaChasidim. This is a miracle we must recognize tonight. Rabbi Barras A mentioned earlier, Chassidim Ein Mishpacha. Where do you see an outpour of the love of the Chassidim Ein Mishpacha the world over? Throughout the entire ordeal, spearheaded by Rabbi Lider and Abbas Achim and all the people who were involved. To be there for the family in time of need. These are miracles. These are the dreams and visions of the Rebbe coming to fruition. And for all this, we need to recognize here tonight, this is all a story full of chapters of miracles. And then, there's another chapter. we didn't expect. We didn't fathom, we didn't imagine this could ever happen. And as I'm reading the Rebbe's kapitel, there's a chapter right before the final chapter. Me'ez Hashem ho'yisazois in niflas be'eneinu. We stop and pause. It's all real. It's all genuine. It's everlasting. Me'ez Hashem ho'yisazois. There are things that niflas be'eneinu. The Rebbe in the very famous letter, in which the Rebbe talks about his vision. The Rebbe speaks about a vision that he lived every day of ever since he's been a young child, a 2-year-old. And hear what the Rebbe says. It wasn't only I was dreaming about Geula, it wasn't only I was envisioning the day when Mashiach will come and the world will be full of bliss. There will be abundance of goodness in every sense of the word. That does not satisfy the Rebbe. That's not yet the Geula the Rebbe is envisioning. The Rebbe is envisioning a Geula. That when Mashiach is going to be revealed, we're going to look back and understand those chapters that we can't understand today. Those Me'ez Hashem ho'yisazois, those that were niflas be'eneinu, those that are beyond the human comprehension. The Rebbe is insisting day must come when we will understand that too. Otherwise, in the Rebbe's eyes, it's not real Geula. Because the Rebbe would not tolerate any true suffering for a moment. And if there's a momentary suffering, there must come a day where Hashem will answer it. This is the one chapter before which needs to infuse us and lift us up to a higher level of emunah. Me'ez Hashem ho'yisazois. It's to remind us that our lives must be infused, readying ourselves for that moment when we will see and understand all those mysteries, including this one here. Let's ready ourselves for the final psukim in the Rebbe's kapitel, when we will all celebrate Zeh Hayoim Oso Hashem Nogila V'Nismu Chabai. It will be a world celebration with the Baruch Haba B'Shem Hashem greeting Mashiach. It will be the ultimate Oyitcha Hashem Ki Anaftabi, when we will say with our whole heart and soul, Hoidu Hashem Ki Tov Ki Le'olam Chazdai. May we see it now, Mamash.
No words. No words to follow. Rabbi Ginsburg mentioned that we're entering 100 years of the hachlatos of the Rebbe Nishmas Eden. The Rebbe Nishmas Eden had a ben Yochid, Yosef Yitzchak, the Frierdiker Rebbe. And if little Yosef Yitzchak is listening tonight, I want you to listen. Before the hachlatos of the Rebbe Nishmas Eden, he tells his son, Ich gehe in Himmel, I am going above, aber die Ksovim los ich eich. I'm going to give the Chassidim, I'm giving Adas Chassidim, the Maimorim, the Ksovim, the Rabbeim, especially his own Maimorim. I want each and every one of you which are participating here tonight to know that the Zalman of Iberglos and Asach Ksovim typed up, spent hours and hours, Shiurim on Tanya, Shiurim on Maimorim, Prokim Yudches, Yutes, Chof, Chof Aleph, Chof Beis, all the Prokim that he taught, Ba'ava v'Achva. And anyone that wants to participate, and anyone that wants to partake, and anyone that wants to read the Ksovim, or even hear the Shiurim, Anon Nafshi Ksovis Yehovis, is welcome to email me at yeshivaslobavitch@gmail.com. I'm more than happy to share with you the Ksovim, because Anon Nafshi Ksovis Yehovis and little Yosef Yitzchak and Yisrael And Sri, no the Medelach, Anon Nafshi Ksovis Yehovis, Dorten, that's the Gefin in the Tata. In these Ksovim, Chaim, sein Leben is gewünscht near Zalman, his Shiurim and Tanya of the Alter Rebbe. Aber Amaisu Ikir. Everything has to boil down to Porah the Plachu Bepoil Mamish. We are almost at the end of this evening, which, as we mentioned at the beginning, is not a memorial service. It's a call to action. It's an evening which is supposed to inspire us to make a dent, a small change in our lives. And when we change ourselves, like the Rebbe told Gordon Zaks, which I started off the program tonight, the Rebbe told him, Gordon, you want to change the world, you got to start by changing yourself. And the Rebbe said, I'll tell you an example of what that means. He says, you ever saw a child skipping stones in the ocean? When you put the stone you skip a stone, it creates, one leads to the next, It creates these vibrations, it continues and continues. The Rebbe told Gordon Zaks, by changing yourself, you change the world around you. And this is our job tonight. So as a yeshiva has taken upon itself a very special hachlatos, which you'll hear from Rabbi Yosef, the senior Magachir in Yeshiva, the Yedid, colleague for many years, Yedid Nefesh of Zalman, who's taking upon himself on behalf of the Anhala to not just announce the hachlatos, but implement the hachlatos. Following that, we are going to be watching a video of Reb Zalman talking about what he expects from his Talmidim, and talking the last Farbrengen that he had here in Yeshiva, which is haunting his last words, the last words that the Talmidim heard him say. The words that says, I will be back soon. I need time, obviously, to prepare my shiurim better. He'll be back. You'll hear his personal request of each and every one of us, and we will finish with a video presentation. You will see pictures of Reb Zalman in action, in all different action, that the emes shines forward in every single picture. So before we see the two video presentations, Rabbi Leo Simpson, so you begin the hachlatos from Anhala Yeshiva.
Short and straight to the point. One of the inyanim that Reb Zalman really stood for and cared about, as everybody knows, is the inyan of Avodas HaTefillah. And Avodas HaTefillah means to dive into the Eibishter with kavanah. The Alter Rebbe defines kavanah as recognizing that you're standing before the Eibishter, not just reading the words and translating them in your mind, but recognizing that you're standing before the Eibishter. But in order for that to happen, of course, there has to be first Pirush HaMilos, you have to just understand what you're actually saying. It's hard to be inspired if you don't know what it is that you're reading. So the hachlatos is that Eretz Hashem every week on Tuesday afternoon, the last 15 minutes of Seder from 1:50 to 2:05, and then when the clock changes from 2:15 to 2:30, Eretz Hashem, we will have a shir in Pirush HaMilos. Try to make it interesting. Each week we'll choose another small shtickle. We'll give the simple Pirush HaMilos. We'll give also maybe a little history, just 1 or 2 minutes about where the tefillah came from. And of course, we'll give also Chassidish explanation on that shtickle. That's as far as the hachlatos is, just following up on what Rabbi Barras A was talking about, as far as the shiurim, and as far as the recordings. I would like to make my own suggestion. If a website can be put up where the shiurim can be made available somehow online, and maybe a sefer can be printed of the shiurim that are typed up. It's not and it should all be a schus, and I'll leave the neshama, and respect now with this life.
Yeshiva is out to reach the neshama of every single time. Every shir in Yeshiva, whether it's a shir in Gemara, whether it's a shir in Davening, whether it's a farbrengen, a whole Yeshiva, it's a class, you want an individual buffer, especially an individual buffer. Our goal is to show what it means to be a mensch, what it means to be unique, what it means to be a chassid. How a chassid acts, how a chassid learns, acts. Thinks our attitudes are. In other words, the message of Torah. That Torah is not only something that you learn, it's a subject, but Torah is meant to teach us a lesson for life, a lesson in life, an outlook on life, outlook on the world, outlook on ourselves, on each other. This is what Torah is all about. This doesn't only come out of the shiur, it cannot come out of the shiur. It comes out in the methods of discipline, it comes out in the methods of upbringing, and both with the individual and the group. And when a Talmud comes out of the Yeshiva with more Yerushalayim, with more appreciation of the Torah is all about, more appreciation of what it means to be human, what it means to be a chassid, you know we have succeeded.
As soon as we say what that means, we have a list in our mind for the things that we're grateful for. Abishter, thank you for my life, thank you for my gesund, and thank you for everything else. It's a good idea to take a pen and paper and write down a few inyanim for which we will thank the Abishter Yetitah. Our families, our friends, whatever it is that we appreciate and are very thankful to the Abishter. And then to thank the Rebbe for all his brachas, for all his stimulus that schlep us out in America and America. And that will help all of us. It will obviously help all of you, and it will also help me. So one is looking l'chaim zusammen, that the Eibishter should send it for Shlomo Krayva to everyone that needs it. And he should bench us B'yodai Hamleya, Sucha, Hakdosha, and Hakdosha, V'harkova. Brachas as we die, whatever you want, whatever you need, V'gashmi, V'ruchnias, V'tayva, V'libracha, V'doshodendem Rebbe, V'eini Gosta, take it to Yad Navi, V'tayim.
We thank everybody for joining. And obviously the main inyan is V'achai Yitin Aliboy Hamaisu Eikir, the hachlatos toivus. We're going to have a Ma'ariv now, continued by Fabrengen, with Rabbi Ginsburg. We're going to be Messiah, the Beis Nissen today, with Beis Nissen 31 years ago. The Rebbe taught us that Chaim Shana, which this year is Chaim Shana of the Nesias Begoli of the Rebbe, the way we are Zoicha, the Kitzu V'ranu Shoichnei Ofor, the way we are Zoicha to bring about the Gilui of Melech HaMoshiach. Everyone should be machriz together. Yechi Adineinu Meirenu V'Rabbeinu Melech HaMoshiach L'Olam V'Oed. Yechi Adineinu Meirenu V'Rabbeinu Melech HaMoshiach L'Olam V'Oed. Yechi Adineinu Meirenu V'Rabbeinu Melech HaMoshiach L'Olam V'Oed. Mike.
The live stream will be continued by the Fabrengen.
Really?